I'm here now. You're safe.
Say you're nothing. The boy twisted his fist in her collar and lifted her onto her toes, and her lips went from pink to gray. 30 phones came up. A girl in the front row leaned in and zoomed. Then a hand closed around the boy's wrist from behind, and a voice said very quietly, "Let go of my daughter." Nathan Cole did not shout. He did not run. He walked into that hallway in a Navy uniform with a Belgian Malinois at his knee, and the dog had already decided. Subscribe and stay to the very end, because what this father found had nothing to do with that hallway. And drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this story travels. 25 minutes before her father walked through those doors, Nora Cole was sitting in the second to last row of fourth period, watching her phone light up under her desk. She did not want to look. She looked anyway. It was a photo of her, taken 3 weeks ago outside the diner on Mercer Street, where she worked weekends, still in her apron hair, pulled back carrying 2 bags of trash to the dumpster. Somebody had pasted her face onto a cartoon raccoon, 240 shares. The caption said, "Harlow Bay's own scholarship girl doing what she does best." She locked the phone. She unlocked it. She locked it again. Her hands would not stop shaking, and the thing she hated most was not the picture. It was that her first thought was not anger. It was calculation. How many people have seen it? Which ones will say something in the hallway? Which route can I take to sixth period that has the fewest lockers? 15 years old, and she had a threat map of her own school in her head. The bell rang. She waited. She always waited. 11 seconds after the bell, the hallway thinned enough that she could move without brushing shoulders. She made it 40 feet. "Cole," she kept walking. "Hey, trash girl, I'm talking to you." Colton Ashcroft stepped into her path so casually that it looked accidental, and everyone around them knew it was not. He was 6'2", and he had a way of standing that took up more room than his body actually needed. "I'm going to class," Nora said. "You went to the counselor." "I didn't. Don't lie to me." He smiled when he said it, and that was worse than shouting. "My dad got a phone call from the school asking questions. You know what that means for my family." "I didn't say anything to anybody." "Somebody did? Then ask somebody." The words came out before she could stop them, and she watched his face change, not to rage, to something flatter and colder. She had seen it 4 times in 8 months, and every single time, it had ended the same way. "Okay," Colton said quietly. "Okay." She turned to go. He grabbed the back of her jacket collar and turned her into the lockers, and the whole row rattled like a train going by. 16 miles away, Nathan Cole had his arm inside the housing of a diesel water pump with a wrench he could not quite reach. "Cole," his foreman Bud banged on the frame. "Your phone's been busting off the bench for a minute." "It's Thursday. Nobody calls me on Thursday." "Well, somebody is." Nathan pulled his arm out, wiped his hands on a rag that made them dirtier, and picked up the phone. 3 words. "Dad, please come." He read them twice. He read them a third time because in 12 years of service, he had learned that the messages that mattered were always the short ones. Nobody writing a paragraph is in real trouble. The ones in real trouble spend everything they have left on 4 or 5 words. His daughter had spent hers on 3. "Bud." "Yeah." "Family emergency." "You got another 2 hours on the clock, man." Nathan was already walking. He had his gloves off before he hit the door and his keys out before he hit the lot. "Cole," Bud called after him. "You come back for your tools. I'll come back for my tools." The truck was old, and the passenger seat was covered in a blanket that had not been washed in a while, and lying on that blanket was a Belgian Malinois with a scar where the top third of his left ear used to be. The dog was already sitting up. He had been sitting up since Nathan came through the door 40 feet away. Kilo. The dog's tail did not wag. His ears came forward, one of them all the way, one of them halfway, and he watched Nathan's hands the way soldiers watch an officer's face. "Yeah," Nathan said. "Yeah, I know." He put the truck in gear. The drive from Harlow Port Shipyard to Harlow Bay High was 17 minutes with lights. He did it in 11. And the whole 11 minutes, Nathan Cole was doing math he did not want to do. 8 months of his daughter coming home quiet. 8 months of "I'm just tired, Dad." 8 months of her eating dinner with her jacket still on in a house where the heat worked fine. 8 months, and she had never once asked him for help. Not once. Which meant she had decided somewhere along the line that he was one more thing she had to protect. He gripped the wheel until the plastic creaked. "I'm going to fix this," he said out loud to nobody, to the dog, to a woman 4 years in the ground. "I swear to God, Anna, I'm going to fix this." Nora's back hit the metal so hard that her books went in 3 directions. "You've been avoiding me for weeks," Colton said. "I'm not avoiding you. I don't think about you." That was the wrong thing to say. She knew it was the wrong thing to say, and she said it anyway because there was a small hot thing in her chest that had been getting louder for 8 months, and she had run out of room to hold it. His hand came up and took a fistful of her collar and twisted it in the jacket zipper pressed into the front of her throat. "Say you're nothing," he said. Somewhere to her left, Sienna Blake said, "Oh my God," and did not lower her phone 1 inch. She adjusted the angle. She actually adjusted the angle. "Say it," Nora's mouth opened. "The thing nobody tells you about being choked is that the panic does not come from pain. It comes from the moment your body tries to breathe and finds out it is not allowed to." She clawed at his wrist. Her nails found skin. "Ow, you little!" And he twisted harder. "Bro." That was Trey Bishop standing 3 feet back, arms folded, laughing in a way that had no laugh in it. "Bro, that's enough. She's fine. Colton, her lips are going. She needs to learn respect." Hunter Vale said, "World star," like it was a joke, and a few people laughed, and that was the sound that Nora would remember for the rest of her life. Not the choking, the laughing. Her vision started narrowing at the corners. She stopped clawing. She thought about her mother, which was strange because she almost never let herself. She thought about the smell of the hospital blanket. She thought about a woman with no eyebrows, left saying, "You call your dad. Whatever it is you call your dad, he will come. He will always come." And she thought, "I sent it. I sent it. I sent it. Daddy, please." Then the front doors of Harlow Bay High opened. Nobody noticed him for the first 4 seconds. They were too busy filming. Kilo noticed everything. The dog's body dropped 2 inches. His ears flattened. A sound started in his chest that did not seem to come from a chest at all, low and slow like something underground. Nathan put one hand on the dog's head. Not yet. He walked into the crowd, and the crowd parted the way crowds do when somebody moves through them with absolute certainty about where they are going. A junior with a backpack turned, saw the uniform, saw the dog, and said, "Whoa," and stepped back into 3 other people. Then Nathan saw her. He had seen a lot of things. He had carried men out of buildings. He had knelt in the dirt beside people he loved and watched the light leave them. Nothing in 12 years had prepared him for the color of his own daughter's face. Something inside him went very quiet. Not loud, quiet. That was the part Colton Ashcroft would never understand until it was far too late. "Hey." He did not raise his voice. He had learned a long time ago that volume is for people who are not sure they will be obeyed. The hallway did not hear him. He said it again. "Hey, let go of my daughter." Colton looked up. For 1 second, there was real confusion on his face. Then his eyes went to the uniform and something flickered that was almost recognition. But Colton Ashcroft had never in his life met a problem his last name did not solve. His grip loosened. It did not let go. "Who the hell are you?" Her father. Yeah, the smirk came back. It came back because he needed it to come back because 30 people were watching. Well, maybe her father should teach her some manners. "We were just talking." "Let go." The hallway went dead. Even the phones stopped moving. Kilo's growl dropped an octave into something that stopped sounding like a dog at all, and the 4 students nearest to him took 3 fast steps backward without deciding to. Colton's eyes went to the dog, to Nathan, back to the dog. His fingers opened. Nora came off the lockers and her legs did not work, and Nathan crossed the distance in 2 steps and caught her under the arms before she hit the floor. Okay, I got you." She could not talk. She was making a sound that was not a word, a thin dragging noise, and her hands closed on the front of his uniform and would not open. "Breathe, don't talk, just breathe." "Dad, don't talk." "Dad, I'm sorry." "Nora." He got a hand behind her head and held it, and his voice came out steady because he made it come out steady. "You do not apologize to me. Not ever. Not for this." He got her upright. Her whole body was shaking in a way that had nothing to do with the cold, and there were already 4 marks coming up on her throat, red now going purple later. We're leaving, he said, and that should have been it. 20 years from now, people in Harlowport would still argue about what was wrong with Colton Ashcroft that afternoon. What kind of person watches a man pick his half-strangled daughter up off the floor and decides to make it worse? The answer is the kind of person who has never in his entire life been told no. Hey, soldier boy. Nathan stopped. He did not turn around. You should keep that mutt on a leash. Colton was rubbing his wrist where her nails had opened it, and he said it loud for the crowd for the phones. Your daughter, too. We weren't finished talking. Sienna Blake lowered her phone. Trey Bishop said very quietly, Colton, shut up. Nathan turned around. He kept one hand on his daughter's shoulder, and he looked at Colton Ashcroft the way a man looks at a piece of equipment he is deciding whether to repair or replace. And the 17-year-old took a step back before he knew he was taking it. What did you say? I said, Colton started. I heard what you said. Nathan took one step. One. Let me tell you what I heard. I heard a 17-year-old boy put his hands on a 15-year-old girl and squeeze until she stopped fighting. I heard 30 people film it. I heard a room full of adults be somewhere else. He tilted his head slightly. And then I heard him say he wasn't finished. It was a joke. Do I look like I'm laughing? Colton's face lost color in stages. Nathan closed the rest of the distance and Kilo moved with him, perfectly in step so smoothly that two girls near the wall made small noises. That dog, Nathan said, is 9 years old. He has arthritis in both hips and he is deaf on the left side. He has been shot at more times than you have been told no. He let that sit, and he just decided not to touch you. That was his call, not mine. I want you to think about that tonight. My dad, Colton said. I know who your dad is. You have no idea what my dad, and his voice cracked in the middle of it, and it was such a small, ordinary 17-year-old crack that half the hallway heard it. Listen to me very carefully. Nathan's voice dropped so low that only the four closest people caught it, and every one of them would repeat it to somebody else before the end of the day. If you touch her again, there will not be a school board meeting. There will not be a police report. There will be you and me and the truth about which one of us is actually dangerous. Do you understand? Nothing. I asked you a question. Yeah, barely audible. Yeah, I understand. Good. Nathan put his arm around his daughter and walked her out, and the hallway opened up in front of them like water. Nobody filmed it. Nobody said a word until the doors closed. She held it together across the lobby. She held it together down the front steps. She held it together for 11 more feet across the parking lot. Then she came apart. It happened all at once the way a dam does. She grabbed two fistfuls of his uniform and folded, and the sounds coming out of her were the sounds she had made exactly once before in a hospital corridor when she was 11. Nathan went down on one knee on the wet asphalt and let her. I'm sorry, she kept saying. I'm sorry, I didn't want to bother you at work. I tried to handle it. I really tried. Stop. You were on the clock. They'll dock you. I know they'll dock you. Nora, look at me. She would not. Look at me. She did. Her left eye had a burst vessel in it, a small red bloom in the white, and Nathan felt something move in his chest that he had not felt since a village outside a city he was not allowed to name. None of this is your fault, he said. Say it back to me. Dad, say it back. It's not my fault, she said, and did not believe one word of it. How long? She wiped her face with the heel of her hand. Dad. How long, sweetheart? September. It was May. Nathan did not move. He did not blink. I was doing arithmetic again, and it was coming out to 8 months, and every one of those months had a dinner in it where he had asked how her day was, and she had said fine. Why didn't you tell me? Because I knew what you'd do. She said it fast, like she had rehearsed it, and he understood with a sick lurch that she probably had. I knew you'd go in there. And then his dad gets involved, and you lose the shipyard job, and we're already 2 weeks late on rent, and you'd have that look you get. She stopped. What look? The one you had when Mom got sick. Her voice went very small. Like you were going to fight something you can't fight. Nathan looked at the ground for a second. I'm going to say something to you, he said, and I need you to hear it exactly the way I mean it. It is not your job to protect me. Not now, not when you're 30, not ever. I don't care if I lose the job. I don't care if we lose the apartment. There is nothing in this world I am not willing to lose before I lose you. Do you understand me? She nodded and then she cried harder, which is what people do when somebody finally says the thing they have needed to hear for 8 months. Kilo pushed his whole head under her arm and shoved. She dropped down and put both arms around his neck and pressed her face into his fur and stayed there. And the dog stood absolutely still and let her, which was not something he did for anyone. "Thank you for coming," she said into his neck. Nathan was not sure whether she was talking to him or to the dog. He decided it did not matter. The truck was quiet for 6 miles. Nora sat with her knees up and Kilo's head in her lap, and her hand kept going to her own throat, touching it, checking the way you check a tooth that just came loose. "They're going to say I started it," she said. "I know, Tictin. Sienna has the video. She's already got it up. I'd bet money. She'll cut it." "Cut it how?" "She'll cut the part where he grabbed me." Nora said it without emotion, which was somehow worse. "She'll start it where you walk in." So it was just a big scary guy and a dog. Nathan's jaw worked. "You've thought about this." "I think about everything, Dad. That's all I do." 6 more miles. Then out of nowhere, she said, "Can I ask you something and you don't get mad?" "I won't get mad. When Mom was sick," she paused, "did you sign anything with the cannery?" Nathan's foot came off the west about an inch. "What?" "With Ashcroft Marine. Did you sign anything paperwork or—" "Why would I sign anything with the cannery?" He glanced over. "Nora, why are you asking me that?" She kept looking out the window. "Because Colton said something. Back in February, I didn't tell you." She swallowed and it clearly hurt. "He said his family already bought mine once. He said it like it was funny. He said, 'Ask your dad about the envelope.'" The truck was very quiet. "He was being a punk," Nathan said. "That's all that was. Kids like that grab whatever hurts." "Yeah," Nora said. "That's what I told myself." She fell asleep before they got home, one hand still in the dog's fur. She went to bed at 9 and Nathan checked on her 3 times, which he had not done since she was 7. The third time he stood in her doorway longer than he meant to, listening to her breathe, and then he went out to the hall closet and pulled down the box he had not opened in 4 years. He told himself it was to find her birth certificate for the police report. That was a lie, and he knew it was a lie while he was telling it. Anna's things, a hospital bracelet, a photograph of the three of them at the jetty, 2 spiral notebooks of her handwriting, grocery lists, and appointment times, and a phone number for a woman named Delia that he had never called. And at the bottom, flat against the cardboard, an envelope he had never seen before in his life. Thick, sealed, bent at one corner, printed across the front in the small blue block letters he had driven past on the side of a building every single day for 19 years, Ashcroft Marine. Confidential. Nathan Cole sat down on the floor of his own hallway with the envelope in both hands and did not open it for a long, long time. He opened it at 11:40 that night standing up because sitting down had started to feel like giving something permission. Inside were 9 pages held together with a black binder clip, and the first thing his eyes found was not a word. It was a signature. Anna M. Cole, her handwriting. The real one, the one with the loop that never closed on the A, dated 6 weeks before she died. Nathan read the top of the page 4 times before the sentence agreed to mean anything. Release of all claims and confidentiality agreement. He turned to the second page. Numbers: $41,216 paid in 3 installments to Providence Coastal Medical Billing on behalf of the patient, not to the patient. He remembered those 3 months. He remembered his wife telling him the hospital had a program. He remembered asking her twice how a program covered that much and her saying, "Nathan, please, can we just be grateful?" And him letting it go because she was tired and he was scared, and letting it go was easier than the alternative. He turned to page 5. The releaser agrees not to disclose, discuss, publish, or characterize to any third party the existence of this agreement, the terms herein, or any facts, conditions, allegations, or observations relating to the releaser's employment at the Harlow Port facility. Nathan set the pages down on the kitchen counter very carefully, the way you set down something that might go off. Anna had worked the nightline at the cannery for 11 years. She had come home smelling like brine and bleach, and she used to laugh about it. She used to say the smell was job security. He looked at the last page for a long time. There was a signature block for the company representative, G. Ashcroft. Nathan Cole stood in his kitchen at midnight and understood with a clarity that made his hands go cold that his daughter had been telling him something in the truck, and he had told her it was nothing. He picked up his phone and opened the text thread with the 3 words in it and just looked at it. Then Nora's door opened behind him. "You're up," she said. He turned the pages face down. He did it fast, and she saw him do it fast. "Yeah. What is that nothing yet?" "Dad." "Nora, I mean it. Not nothing forever. Nothing yet." He looked at her, and her throat in the kitchen light had gone the color of a storm coming in. "Go back to bed." She didn't move. "Is it about Mom?" "Bed." She went. She stopped in the hallway and said without turning around, "You know I'm going to find out anyway." And then she was gone, and Nathan stood there and thought, "God help me, she's exactly like you." He slept 2 hours. At 6:15, she came out of her room dressed with her hair down over her neck, and she put something on the kitchen table between them. A composition notebook. The cheap kind, 99 cents, the cover soft from being carried. "What's this? Open it." He opened it. Septi 12. Hallway by 200s. Shoved locker. CAS, Blake T. Bishop watching. No bruise. Septi 19. Cafeteria. Milk poured in backpack. Lost math homework. CA. Sept 30. Bus loop. Grabbed wrist. Bruise 4 marks inside left wrist. Photo taken 7:42 p.m. Page after page. His daughter's small, tight handwriting, the dates, the times, the names, the exact locations. A column on the right side of every page that said witnesses and a column that said evidence. 61 entries. Nathan looked up and he could not make his voice work on the first try. "You kept this the whole time." "Since the second week." "Why?" "Because nobody believed Jonah Pike," she said. "And I figured if it ever happened to me, crying it wasn't going to be worth anything. But this might be." "Nora, I know you're mad." "I'm not mad." He put his hand flat on the notebook. "I have worked with people who spent 20 years learning to do what you did on your own at 14 years old with a 99-cent notebook. Do you understand what I'm telling you?" She shrugged, and her chin was doing something she was trying not to let it do. "I didn't want you to see me as somebody things happen to," she said. "I see you," Nathan said, "as somebody who wrote it down." The phone rang at 8:03. Unknown number. He knew before he answered. "Mr. Cole." The voice was smooth in a way that had been expensive to build. "Grant Ashcroft, I think you and I should get out ahead of this." "Ahead of what?" "An unfortunate incident between two children. Your son is 17, my daughter is 15, and she has 4 finger marks on her windpipe." A pause, exactly 1 beat too long. "Emotions are running high. I understand that. I'm a father too." "Say that again." "Excuse me." "Say the part where you're a father too. I want to hear how it sounds when you say it out loud." The smoothness thinned. "Mr. Cole, let me be direct because I think we're both busy men. I'm prepared to make a substantial gesture. $50,000. You transfer Nora to St. Ives, tuition covered, and this ends today with everybody's dignity intact." Nathan looked down at the notebook on his table. 61 entries. "Mr. Ashcroft, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Is 50 your standard number, or does it move?" Silence. "Because I ask," Nathan said, "since I've got a piece of paper here that says 41,216, and I'm trying to work out how you price these things." The silence got longer and it changed quality, and Nathan heard a chair move on the other end. "I don't know what you're referring to." "Sure you do. You signed it." "Mr. Cole." Every trace of warmth was gone now, and what was underneath was so much older and colder that Nathan almost respected it. "You are a mechanic with a disability rating and a rent problem. I have been in this town since before you were born. Do not misunderstand what you are holding." "What am I holding?" "A piece of paper," Grant said, "signing by a woman who is not here to explain it. Think very carefully about what you drag her name through." Nathan hung up before he said the thing he wanted to say, because the thing he wanted to say would have been useful to them later in a courtroom. He set the phone down and found Nora standing in the doorway with her backpack on. "That was his dad," she said. "Yeah." "What did he offer?" 50. She nodded slowly like she was pricing it herself. "We're 2 weeks late on rent." "Nora." "I'm just saying the number out loud, that's all." She adjusted her backpack strap. "I don't want it. I just wanted to hear how much I was worth." "You're not on the market," Nathan said. By 10 that morning, he was sitting across the desk from Principal Vera Sloan. And by 10:04, he understood exactly how this was going to go, because she had a folder open in front of her that was not about his daughter. "Mr. Cole, I want you to know I take every report seriously." "Great, here's one. He put his phone down and slid it toward her, the photo of Nora's throat taken at 6 a.m. that morning, full color timestamped. Sloan looked at it for about a second and a half. That's very upsetting. You didn't look at it. I looked at it. You looked at the corner of it. Nathan pulled the phone back. Ma'am, 30 students filmed this. Do you understand what I just said? You don't need an investigation. You need a hard drive. Students are reluctant to come forward against their peers. There are social dynamics. There's a dynamic, all right. He glanced at the wall behind her, at the framed photo of Sloan shaking hands with Grant. Ashcroft at a ribbon cutting, and then at the second one at a different ribbon, and then at the third. 3 photos, same man. How much did Ashcroft Marine give this district last year? Sloan's jaw set. Donations are public record. I know, I looked. 2.1 million. He leaned forward. How many complaints against Colton Ashcroft are on file in this building? That information is protected. How many kids miss Sloan? Mr. Cole, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. He stood. My wife died 4 years ago, he said. The last thing she asked me was to make sure Nora didn't grow up scared. I've been failing at that for 8 months without knowing it. I want you to understand that I've stopped failing at it as of yesterday afternoon. He got as far as the door. Mr. Cole, Sloan's voice had changed slightly, and for 1 second he thought something human might come out of it. For what it's worth, I would leave that envelope alone. He turned around. What envelope? Vera Sloan looked at him, and then she looked down at her desk, and she did not say another word. He filed the police report that afternoon. Officer Ray Doyle took it with his phone face up on the desk beside him, and he did not pick up the photographs once. So you're saying there was an altercation? I'm saying my daughter was strangled. Well, strangled's a strong word. It's a medical word. It's on the ER intake form. You want to read it? I've known the Ashcrofts 15 years. Doyle finally looked up. Colton's a good kid, little rougher around the edges. Rough around the edges. Kids exaggerate, Mr. Cole. Memories get fuzzy. Nathan stood, picked up the photographs, and put them back in his jacket. Does Grant Ashcroft pay you hourly, he said. Or is it a flat rate? Doyle came out of his chair. You want to say that again? I said it once, you heard it. Careful, Cole. People might get the wrong idea about you. People already have, Nathan said. That's the part I came to fix. Sienna Blake posted the video at 4:52 p.m. It was 31 seconds long. It started with Nathan walking through the crowd. It included Kilo's growl cleaned up and boosted. It ended on Colton with both hands raised, backing away, looking exactly like a frightened child. The caption read, Unstable vet brings attack dog into Harlow Bay High. Is anyone safe? 11,000 views by dinner. 200,000 by the next afternoon. The comments were the part that took the skins off. This is what PTSD looks like. Get help. Where's CPS on this one? That poor kid is 17. Nathan scrolled for 6 minutes and then put the phone in a drawer. And when he came out of the kitchen, Nora was sitting on the couch reading the same comments on her own phone with an expression he had never seen on her before, which was no expression at all. Give me that. They're saying you're dangerous. Give me the phone, sweetheart. They're saying you should lose custody of me. She looked up. Dad, they're saying it under a video of you saving my life. I know. How is that even? And her voice went, and she pressed the back of her hand against her mouth. How does that work? How does that work? Because a lie travels light, Nathan said, and the truth has to carry 61 entries in a notebook. She laughed wetly once. That's very fortune cookie. Your mother used to say that too. Bud called him at 7:10 that night. Cole, I got to pull you off the night rotation. Bud, it ain't me. Corporate got about 40 emails today with a video attached, and the shipyard's got a supply contract with Ashcroft Marine, and I need you to hear me say I'm sorry because I am. How long pending review? That means unpaid. That means unpaid, Bud said. Nathan, for whatever it's worth, my sister's boy went to that school. I believe you. Then say it on a record somewhere. Long silence. I got 2 years to my pension. Yeah, Nathan said. That's what everybody's got. The letter from Harlow County Animal Services came 2 days later. Nathan read it twice at the mailbox and then read it a third time in the truck because his brain kept refusing the last line. An anonymous complaint had been filed alleging a dangerous animal displaying aggression toward minors on school property. Pending a hearing, the animal was subject to seizure. If the hearing found for the complainant, the animal was subject to humane destruction. Kilo was in the passenger seat with his chin on the window ledge. Nathan put his hand on the back of the dog's neck and held it there, and for the first time since the hallway, something in him actually shook. "They're going to have to come through me," he said. "You hear me? They're going to have to come through me first." The dog leaned into his hand. Nathan called Maliko say that night, and Malik picked up on the second ring the way he had picked up on the second ring for 14 years. "Nate, Bear, I need you." "Where?" "Oregon, coast. It's not the kind of thing I can put on a phone." "Is it, Nora?" "Yeah." "Then don't put it on a phone," Bear said. "I'm 11 hours out. Leave the porch light on." He arrived at 6 a.m. with a van and 2 hard cases, and the first thing he did was hug Nathan hard enough to lift him, and the second thing he did was go down on one knee in front of a girl he hadn't seen since she was 9. "You remember me?" "You brought me a stuffed camel," Nora said. "I brought you a stuffed camel." Bear's face did something complicated. "Sweetheart, I heard what happened. I'm not going to tell you it's going to be okay, because you've probably had about 100 people tell you that this week." "4, Nora said. 4 people. 4 people, okay." He held out his hand. "Then I'll tell you the true thing instead. You're not by yourself anymore. That's all I've got. That's the whole speech." She shook his hand. Walter Kane came on Thursday, 62 years old, 20 years in the Judge Advocate General's Corps before he went private with a grip like a bench vise and a folder that was already 2 inches thick before Nathan told him anything. "The Ashcrofts," he said, sitting down. "I have waited 19 years for somebody in this county to walk into my office and say that name with that look on their face. You know them. I know their paperwork, which is better." Kane opened the folder. 9 settlements, I can confirm. 6 with families of minors. Every one of them has a confidentiality clause, and every one of them has a provision that says the family agrees the incident was accidental in nature. He looked up over his glasses. "Mr. Cole, 9 kids and every single one of them had an accident." "There's a 10th, Nathan said. "Who?" Nathan put 9 pages on the desk. Kane read the first page, then the second. Then he stopped and took his glasses off and rubbed his eyes with his thumb and forefinger for a while. "This isn't a schoolyard settlement," he said. "No, Ishaya, this is an occupational release." He tapped the page. "Facility exposure. Do you know what your wife did at that plant?" "Nightline, 11 years. "Mr. Cole." Kane put his glasses back on. "I need you to go home tonight and find out if anyone else on that nightline got sick. Not one person. Anyone." Priya Raval called him that same evening. She had been a name on a byline to him until 9 o'clock that night, and by 9:15 she was something else entirely. "I've been on the Ashcrofts for 3 years," she said. "I have never gotten past the second interview with a source. Do you know why money? Money's the first layer. The second layer is people move. 6 of my sources left the state inside 90 days of talking to me. One of them fell off the jetty at Pier 4. Sober 43, no witnesses closed in a week." Nathan closed his eyes. "Ms. Raval, I'm going to ask you something and I need a real answer. Is my daughter safe?" "No," Priya said. "But she wasn't safe before you called me either. That's the part people get wrong. You didn't make her a target. You just made her a target who has a lawyer." He went to the Pike house on Friday in the rain and stood on the porch while David Pike held the door open 6 inches. "I know who you are." "Then you know why I'm here." "We signed papers." "I know." "You don't get it, man." Pike's voice dropped. "We rent from them. This house, my brother's house, half the street. You want me to put my son in a courtroom and then live in my truck? I want you to look at something." "I'm not looking at anything." Nathan held up his phone anyway, and David Pike looked because everybody looks. He looked at a 15-year-old girl's throat for a long time. "Jesus," he said quietly. "He was 13 when he did your son right, broke his hearing aid. Stepped on it. After." Pike's hand tightened on the door. $30,000 and a non-disclosure and a school district letter calling it horseplay. "And my boy hasn't looked me in the eye in 2 years because he knows what I took." "Then take it back." "You can't take it back." "You can testify." "Mr. Cole." Pike's eyes were red. "I'm asking you to leave my porch." And then a woman's voice behind him said, "Let him in, David." "Renee." "I'm tired." She came into the doorway in hospital scrubs, Small gray under the eyes, still smelling like a 12-hour shift. I am so tired of being scared, and I am so tired of watching our son disappear an inch at a time in his own house. If this man can do something, we're going to listen to him. David Pike stood there for 11 seconds, then he stepped aside. Nathan got home at 9:40 that night with 3 phone numbers and a promise, and there was an envelope in his mailbox with no stamp and no return address. He opened it in the truck with the dome light on. Photographs. Nora at the bus stop on Mercer. Nora coming out of the diner tying her apron. Nora at her locker shot through glass from across a courtyard. Long lens. Professional. 6 of them. On the back of the last one typed no signature. She walks 400 meters alone every night. 6 months later, Nathan Cole woke up at 6:47 in the morning and lay there for almost a full minute before he understood what was wrong. Nothing was wrong. That was the thing. He had spent so long waking up already braced that his body had forgotten there was another way to do it, and now there was no envelope in the mailbox and no truck parked on Mercer and no phone call waiting, and his chest did not hurt. Kilo put his chin on the edge of the mattress and made a sound that in 9 years had never once meant anything except get up. Yeah, Nathan said. Yeah, all right. Nora was already at the counter eating cereal standing up, which he had given up correcting. You slept, she said without turning around. So did you. 4 nights. 4 nights in a row. 4 nights in a row. She shrugged one shoulder like it was nothing, and he knew exactly how much it was not nothing. Durumaya says it's not a straight line. She says I'll have a bad week in October or something, and it doesn't mean I went backwards. She's right. I know she's right. I just didn't believe her until this week. She rinsed the bowl. Your phone buzzed twice while you were asleep. I didn't look. You looked. I absolutely looked, Nora said. You got the job. Nathan picked up the phone. The Coastal Veterans Canine Program had been trying to hire a lead trainer for 14 months, and Bear had made the introduction. And Nathan had gone into the interview, certain that a man with a viral video attached to his name was going to walk back out of it. He read the email twice. We'll need Monday, he said. Nora hit him in the shoulder hard enough to hurt, then hugged him hard enough that he had to put a hand on the counter. Okay, he said into her hair. Okay, it's a job, kid. It's not a job, she said. You've been fixing pumps for 4 years and you hate pumps. I don't hate pumps. Dad, you hate pumps. The facility was a converted cold storage building on the north side of the harbor, and Nathan did not fully register what that meant until he pulled into the lot on Monday morning and saw the ghost of the old lettering still bleeding through the paint above the loading doors. Ashcroft Marine, Unit 4. He sat in the truck with his hands on the wheel for about 30 seconds. Captain Robert Hayes, retired airman, 62, came out and knocked on the window. You okay? Whose building is this? Ours, bought at auction 8 weeks ago for $1 in the cost of the environmental remediation. Hayes leaned on the door, which is being paid for out of a victim's trust that a woman named Eleanor Ashcroft set up when she liquidated everything her name was on. So I suppose the honest answer is, it's your wife's building now, Mr. Cole. Nathan got out of the truck. You knew, he said, when you interviewed me. Of course I knew. And you hired me anyway. I hired you because... Hayes started walking. Come meet your dogs. There were 4 of them, and the third one was a 2-year-old shepherd with a washout note in his file that said, excessive handler attachment, unsuitable for law enforcement placement, and Nathan read it and laughed out loud for the first time in about a year. Something funny. They failed him for loving people too much. Yeah, well, Hayes scratched the dog's ear. That's the whole job description over here. The letter from the state penitentiary came in November. Nathan brought it in from the mailbox and put it on the table and did not open it. And when Nora came home from debate practice, she took one look at his face and said, That's from him, isn't it? Yeah. Are you going to read it? I don't know. She sat down across from him and put her bag on the floor. I want to read it, she said, but I want to read it with you, and I want to say something first. Go ahead. If it's an apology, I'm not accepting it. She said it very calmly, and Nathan watched his daughter be a person he had not entirely met yet. Not because I want to be cruel, because it isn't mine to accept. Mom's the one he owes, and she's not here, and I'm not going to stand in for her so he can feel better in a cell. Nathan turned the envelope over twice. That's a hard thing, he said. Is it wrong? No. He opened it. It's just hard. It was 1 page. The handwriting was worse than either of them expected, shaky and old man's. Mr. Cole, I don't expect a reply, and I would think less of you if you sent one. I have spent 6 months trying to locate the exact day I became what your daughter said I was. I cannot find it. That is the part I did not anticipate. There is no day. There is a decision in 2003 about a permit, and a decision in 2009 about a lawyer, and a decision in 2015 about a memo. And each one of them was the reasonable version of the one before it. People will want me to say I always knew. I did not always know. That is worse, and I understand that now. Your daughter stood 3 feet from me and did not blink. I have had 400 people work for me, and not one of them ever looked at me that way. In that moment, I saw what I actually am, which is a man who was never once told no until it was far too late to be useful. I am told the trust will pay out for many years. I am told this does not count. It does not count. I know it does not count. I would like you to tell her that I remember her mother, not from the file, from the floor. She used to bring in cinnamon rolls on the last Friday of the month for the night crew. I ate them. I want you to know that I ate them. G.A. Nathan set it down. Neither of them said anything for a while. That last part, Nora said finally and stopped. Yeah, that's the worst sentence I've ever read in my life. Yeah, Nathan said, it is. She wiped her face with the flat of her hand fast the way she did when she did not want it acknowledged. I don't want to write him back, she said, but there's something I do want. Name it. Jonah Pike's hearing aid is 4 years old and it whistles and he pretends he can't hear it. And the trust has a hardship application form, and nobody at that school has ever helped a single one of us fill out a form in our lives. She looked up. Can we do that instead? Can that be the response? Nathan reached across the table and put his hand flat over the letter. That, he said, is a better answer than anything I could have written. The back row met for the first time on a Wednesday in a borrowed classroom with 9 chairs and 11 people. By the 4th week, there were 34. Nora stood at the front the first night and her hands would not stop moving, and she started 3 times before she got it out. My name is Nora Cole. Some of you already know that because 10 months ago I got choked in a hallway in this building while about 30 people filmed it. Nobody made a sound. I'm not going to tell you. It gets better because when people said that to me, I wanted to throw something at them. She gripped the back of a chair. I'll tell you the true thing instead. It doesn't get better. It gets witnessed. That's the difference. What broke me wasn't his hands. It was that there were 30 people there, and I was still by myself. Camilla Ortiz stood up beside her. They told my family it was an accident, Camilla said. They said it in Spanish and in English so we would understand it both ways. I want everyone in this room to hear me say nothing that happened to me was an accident, and it took me 4 years to be allowed to say that sentence. Jonah Pike went next, and he said 7 words and sat down, and the 7 words were, I'm the kid from the locker video. Devin Booker did not stand up at all. He said from his chair, I'm still scared of him, and he's locked up. So if you're still scared, you're not doing it wrong. And on the 5th week, Trey Bishop showed up at the door. The room noticed him 1 row at a time, the way a wave goes through a crowd. Nora crossed to the door herself because she was not going to let anyone else handle it. You can't be here, she said quietly. I know. You filmed it. You stood 3 feet away and you filmed it. I know. Then why are you here? Trey Bishop was 17 years old and had gone through the worst year of his life in the least sympathetic way possible. And he looked at the floor and said, because I gave 40 pages to that detective and it didn't fix anything. And my therapist says I keep telling the story like I was a bystander. He swallowed. And I wasn't a bystander. I was the audience. That's a different job. Nora did not answer right away. Behind her, somebody said, Nora, don't. And somebody else said nothing at all. You don't get to talk, she said. Not tonight, not next month, maybe not ever. You sit in the back and you listen, and if anybody in this room asks you to leave, you leave without arguing. Okay. And Trey, her voice dropped, if you're doing this because it makes you feel less sick, go home. That's not what this is for. I don't feel less sick, he said. That's kind of the whole reason I'm here. She stepped aside. He sat in the back row and did not say one word for 6 weeks, and on the 7th week, a freshman girl described something her stepbrother had done, and Trey Bishop put his head in his hands and cried, and nobody in that room comforted him, and nobody threw him out either, and Nora would later say that was the most honest thing that ever happened in that classroom. The dog started slowing down in February. Nathan noticed it first on the stairs, then in the mornings, then in the way. Kilo hesitated for half a second before jumping into the truck. And one Tuesday, the vet put both hands on the dog's hips and looked up and did not say anything at all, which was its own answer. How long? Years if we manage it. But he's done working, Mr. Cole, both hips. He should have been retired at 7. He was. Then he didn't get the memo. Nathan drove home the long way. He did it that Saturday in the yard behind the facility with Bear and Nora and Hayes and 11 veterans who had all found reasons to be there on a Saturday. He unbuckled the working harness. Kilo stood absolutely still for it, the way he had stood still for it 400 times, and Nathan's hands were not steady on the last strap. 9 years, he said, 4 deployments in a school hallway. I want to say something, and I'm going to say it badly. Say it badly, Bear said. He pulled me out of a stairwell in 2014 that I had already decided I wasn't coming out of. Nathan cleared his throat. And then 11 months ago, he stood in a hallway with 30 kids screaming and a 17-year-old with his hands on my daughter's throat, and he didn't bite him. He waited for me. Every instinct that dog has said go, and he waited because I put my hand on his head and said not yet. He got the harness off. He's the most disciplined member of this family, and he's the only one of us with a service record that's never been questioned. Nathan put the plain collar on. You're done, buddy. New job. You lie in front of the heater and you get old. Kilo looked at the harness on the ground and then up at Nathan and then sat down against Nora's leg. He's picking, Hayes said. He picked a long time ago, Nathan said. They certified him as a therapy animal 11 weeks later, which Hayes arranged and which was mostly a formality, and Kilo worked exactly one client for the rest of his life. She was 15 going on 16, and she still checked the door at night, and he slept across it. Priya Raval's series won a national award in the spring. She sent Nathan a photo of the plaque and one line, "Your daughter did this, I just typed." The trust made its first hardship payments in April. Jonah Pike got hearing aids on a Tuesday and cried in the parking lot, and his father, who had spent 2 years unable to look him in the face, sat in the driver's seat and sobbed into the steering wheel while his son said, "Dad, it's fine, Dad, seriously." The plant stayed closed. 206 of the 412 got placed within the year through a program. Ken Ellis ended up running out of a union hall, and Nathan showed up to 11 of those hearings with Walter Kane and did not miss one. Ellis never thanked him, but he saved him a seat. In June, Harlow Bay High held its end-of-year assembly, and the district read out the new name of the gymnasium, which the students had voted on. They called it the Cole Center. Nora had voted against it. "It's weird," she told her father in the truck afterward. "It's my mom's name, and it's on a building where I got choked. That's not a tribute. That's a scar with a plaque on it. You want me to have it changed?" "No," she thought about it. "I want the freshmen in 9 years to have no idea who it's named after." "That's the goal, right? That's actually the goal." "That's the goal," Nathan said. They went to the water on the last day of school. The 3 of them and the dog walked about half as fast as he used to, and Nora fell back without being asked and walked with him. Nathan watched them come up the sand together. "Dad, yeah, can I ask you something you're going to hate?" "Probably." That day in the hallway. She kept her eyes on the dog. "Were you scared?" Nathan did not answer immediately because he had decided a long time ago that she had earned true answers, and true answers take a second. "More scared than I have ever been in my life," he said. "In 12 years, I was never scared like that. Not once. Not close." "Why, po?" "Because overseas, the worst thing that could happen was to me." He looked at her, and in that hallway, the worst thing that could happen was already happening to you, and I was 30 feet away and moving too slow. Nora nodded slowly. "Then why'd you walk?" she said. "Everybody asks about the dog and the uniform and the thing you said to him. Nobody ever asks why you walked instead of ran." "Because if I'd run," Nathan said, "you'd have looked up and seen your father panicking. And you needed to look up and see somebody who wasn't." She stopped walking. "That's it. That's the whole reason. That's the whole reason." "Dad," her voice went, "that's the whole reason." "You called me," Nathan said. 3 words. No explanation. "You spent everything you had left on 3 words, and I decided in the truck that whatever I walked into, the first thing you were going to see was somebody who wasn't afraid." Nora Cole stood on a beach and cried in front of her father for the last time about any of it, and he let her and the dog leaned against both of them until they were done. Then she wiped her face and said, "Okay, I'm hungry." Yeah. Yeah, and I'm buying because I have a job and you have a dog with a prescription. That's fair. It's extremely fair. They walked back up the beach, the three of them, and the old dog with half an ear made them stop twice and nobody minded. Harlowport did not change because a Navy SEAL walked into a hallway. It changed because a 15-year-old girl wrote down 61 days in a 99-cent notebook when she was certain nobody would ever read it. And because one man came home, sat at his kitchen table and believed her the first time she asked.